I'm going to take you through some of the church buildings that we looked at, and also hit some of the main talking points that we heard as we were touring those churches. We'll start off with this was Friendship Baptist. We'll come back to their auditorium space in a minute. Their entryway was really nice. It's basic, but it's very welcoming. They said they put lots of money into coffee, but that it was worth it. And even though this is a huge space, they said they wish they had made it even bigger. So they were really liking things like high ceilings. In fact, the pastor at this church told us that what you need to do if you're trying to build a area for a seeker church is that you need to be looking to make the 35-year-old male comfortable, because there are lots of women in church right now whose husbands are not coming with them, and that's what you needed to reach for, is to make men feel like it's a comfortable space for them. He also wished that they renovated a sanctuary that was a more traditional sanctuary. He wished that he had had higher ceilings to work with. They worked around it. But they just said, if you're starting from scratch, go bigger than you need, and because you always are going to need more room than you think that you need. They instead of having screens with projectors, they have these big monitors. You might not be able to tell, but this is a big TV screen. And then for these side rooms that they added on when they renovated, which is, it's all one big room, but you can kind of tell where the old building stops and the new building starts. They have these TVs, so that this part of the congregation can see as well. So that's just a look at what the sanctuary looks like. We also went to Awaken Church. You can see that they are also going for that masculine vibe. They had very clear, attractive signage everywhere, so it's very easy to tell kind of where everything was. This video is going to take a minute to load. They also talked about going big and running out of space. Awaken Church has taken over. This is their auditorium space. And this church has basically taken over where Monkey Joe's used to be, out on Clemson Road. And so when you walk in their lobby area, they've, torn down a lot of the walls that used to be there. But this is their lobby area, their welcoming area. They put this on wheels, so that they can also move it out and kind of use this as a fellowship hall as well. Their emphasis that they kept telling us was that everything needs to be very, very flexible, and just make sure there is room for growth. So again, this is on wheels. These wooden the metal letters that are on this wooden panel can be changed out. The ones in the sanctuary are the same way. This is their sanctuary though. So they changed this out the letters out at Christmas to say something else. And they just said, just make everything very flexible. I also thought these seats were nice, because they have little stuff on the back. And that's what their stage looks like. They also had a very nice child sign-in area. That's probably not going to be an issue for us, but I just thought that area was just very welcoming and inviting. And again, nice and clearly marked. And they even have, this is their nursing mothers area right here, that they had. And so I thought that was good as well. Coffee station. And just another view of the entryway. Again, you can see that everything's really nicely marked. That makes it really easy to find things and nice and welcoming. So this is Grace Life Church's new building that's not open yet. So we kind of talked them into letting us in. This nice man gave us a little tour. of their facility. This is the warehouse. I know it looks like a corner, but it's not. It's just because it's a panorama shot. This is a warehouse that they have taken over, and they're renovating it a little bit at a time. So this is the inside. Again, it's not really finished yet, but this will be their lobby reception area. And you can't really tell here. This goes down to where their sanctuary is, and then if you go a little bit this way, which I don't know if I took a picture of it, is an entry to the so this is their sanctuary, but the entry to the kids area and the kids sign in is also very accessible from the doors, so that's nice and inviting. This will be their auditorium sanctuary area. It seats 500, but they've made these walls so that they can be very easily moved back, so that the room can seat 1,000 once their congregation grows to that point. And this is their youth space, and that's what the whole inside used to look like. So that was an interesting one to see. This is Malvern Hill, and they're going for a little bit more traditional renovation. So there's a lot of stuff in here that won't be something that we'll be worried about. But they did put a lot into lighting. As you can see here, these are all LED lights, so they don't use hardly any electricity at all. And these are LED as well. And they say between the renovations, the way that they made the renovations as far as the walls, and then just the fact that they switched to LED lights, even though they have more area, you can see this was the original wall of the building. Even though they have more area in their sanctuary, they actually reduced their electricity bill. This is St. Matthew's. Their sanctuary was super duper traditional. Probably not what we're looking for, but I thought the nice big lobby was interesting. Not a fan of the color, but it was just an interesting shape. So here's where you get into the sanctuary, but over here is the entryway to the classrooms. And of course, restrooms right here. Restrooms at the back end of the sanctuary where everybody, enters and exits. That was something that was emphasized to us as well at a couple of places. And I also thought the outside of that building looked nice as well. All right, this is Bethel Worship Center. Bethel Worship Center has done a very frugal but very effective renovation. They have their emphasis was that lighting is a key to setting a good atmosphere. Their atmosphere was what was important to them. This was a completely traditional sanctuary, and so that's where the windows were. The windows are still there. They just covered them up with what looks like sound panels. I'll show you in a second what that matches with. And we'll talk about this in a second too. So this is a very nice contemporary worship space. So these sound panels, these are all sound panels that have been arranged, and with the different colors around the cross that was originally over the baptistry. A lot of people were in the church were very attached to that cross and the idea of having it in the sanctuary. And so they were able to do that in a way that still took into consideration sort of this nice, and it's just a very nice, comfortable space, and a nice modern space as well. And this decoration right here, this is where the baptistry used to be. And then there was a stained glass window back there that was covered over. You can't set the ambiance with light if you can't control the light. So, there's, a lot of doing away with windows that we're seeing. But this is just industrial pipe that's been hung in there. It's a very cheap but effective way of decorating there. It looks really beautiful. And again, they have these screens, 9 or 10 foot screens, and we saw a lot of that with LED. One of the things that we were told was, if we could have done it differently type thing, people who are, renovating sanctuaries, but if they were starting from scratch, some people said they would have done a rear projection system rather than having these, the projectors in front. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Also at Bethel, they talked a lot about planning, and they said use carpet squares because you can replace them. I don't know how everybody else feels about carpet squares, but he pointed out that you just peel it up and put another one down if something happens, and it's a lot cheaper than some of the other alternatives. Creativity and tradition combined. I really liked that about this space. Again, I really, really like that wall with those sound panels. And one of the things that they emphasized at this church was that it was very instrumental that people were working together, that they used professionals, and that those professionals worked together and cooperated with one another to make sure that the process went smoothly, and that the end result was what everybody wanted. They also said that it was important to take your time and do lots and lots of planning. I also checked out a website online called Open Church. This is through lifechurch.com. They have free floor plans online. So this one is a 366 seating capacity, and then there's the lobby, and so. And then if you want to go a little bit bigger, this one seats about 500. And again, there's the lobby. There's sort of like a little children's area back here. There's lots of different floor plans on that website, which I will share with y'all. Some things to remember, and then I'll show you just one little youth space. This is what we heard. And most of these things we heard in some fashion or another more than once. So go big, higher ceilings, more room. They said things like you think it's going to be enough room, but it's not. And we have had to make space for this and this kind of room because, we just keep, running out of room, and it's a good problem to have, but, still, go big. Plan for the future. This is kind of in that vein. Making everything just very flexible, and making sure that if you want to change something around or expand something, you can. Make the spaces more manly. I know this sounds really silly, but the guy at the first place mentioned it, and then we saw everywhere we went just these nice muted colors and not tacky, but also not a lot of flowers, not a lot of frou-frou stuff. Make a really good plan and think everything through. This goes back to this planning for the future thing. I thought it was interesting how little Bethel had to spend and how nice their result was. Now, obviously, they are renovating an old building, and we're starting from scratch. So, but still, just the really painstaking process, and talking to professionals. Make sure that they talk to one another, and that they have worked together, not worked together before, but worked with church groups before. And lighting is key. Lots of people talked about how lighting was important. So kind of with that, some points of interest we discovered. Apparently you don't need windows in a sanctuary, and sometimes they're a liability nowadays. Lots of thought it goes into sound and screens and projectors and what kind of that will be best. And decor can be simple and still convey purpose. It could still be a church type of space, without being super duper fancy. This is just a little bonus feature. This is a youth space, which honestly would almost be big enough to be our worship space. But anyway, this is at a really huge church in Raleigh. But they have their own space for a band and monitors and lights and everything. These are LED strips. And so that, that looks really cool when it's lit up. They also have their own little desk in the lobby. And this is the middle school space right here. There's no pictures of the rest of the room, but that nice wood paneling is kind of neat. So something to be thinking about as